So, back up to the start. At the top of your picture, it's the men from the River Dee Royal Rowing Club. And closest to us in red and white, the boys from Kingston Rowing Club. This is a heat of the Thames Challenge Cup. We recorded that off the start, and we're going to go live very soon in this race.
So here we are, quarter of the way down the race. Kingston look to have the better of Royal Chester here. I think they're just rowing a little bit longer at the finish, and they're keeping it moving around the back end of the stroke. And that's why they've got this lead into this very, very strong headwind here, Martin. Chester look a little bit more laboured, a little bit more, I think, just tired, to be honest. Martin is the way I would describe it from here. Kingston just on it, racing the race at that 1500-metre mark.
So Kingston Rowing Club from Surrey in southwest London. You may know it's a big shopping centre there if you haven't seen the rowers, but they're in the very distinctive colours of red and white. And you can see their stroke man, he's closest to you, Richard Sharon, and their cox, Adele Hing, looking at intently. If we get a shot of Royal Chester Rowing Club, I was fascinated. Pete Dean in the 7th seat, that's one behind the stroke man, Henry McGarver. We just saw his brother row successfully, but there's Pete Dean. He went to school with Gareth Bale, would you believe, Alex?
Really?
7 man, yeah, that's cox stroke 7. And, well, the luck Gareth Bale's having in the European Championships, you'd expect Chester to pull something out of the bag now, wouldn't you?
Well, it looks like they haven't let Kingston go. Kingston are rating slightly higher than Chester. I think Chester, it comes slightly back in their favour in this part of the course, so this is where they can push on to get back in contention. And Kingston know that, and that's why they're trying to push away very, very hard now before we come to the last couple hundred metres of the race.
So there is time for King's Chester, with all their connections, fantastic sporting heritage. Sam Wolverton, of course, at that school. Geraint Thomas, the cyclist for the Sky team, has been competing in the Tour de France. I think he's still with Sky, if memory serves. And it's a great sporting heritage that is up there. But Chester Rowing Club, row up on the River Dee, are really in contention to see if they could row down the boys in red and white from Kingston Rowing Club.
They just need to get the number of strokes that they're taking up higher. They need to take more strokes per minute to increase the boat speed, and it just doesn't look like they've made the change. That's got to come from the cox who's steering the boat, and that's got to come from the stroke man. Kingston are all over it. They're keeping that boat moving. They're keeping the number of strokes they're taking very high, because they know they can't let Chester come back in. Although Chester have just moved it up, Martin, what do you think?
Well, you've called it, the rate's got to go up. Of course, if you put the number of strokes per minute up, that's significant, as viewers perhaps watching rowing for the first time on BT Sport will know.
They're drawing level.
You've got to keep your length, and it's a very exciting race. I can look outside. I think Kingston have just got the edge. There's about 20 strokes to go, but every stroke Chester in blue are gaining.
Here we go, last 10 strokes. I think Kingston are going to hold on. They've got the rate right through the roof, and Chester looks to be struggling.
So we come up to the finish line. As you see, there's a slight advantage to the men from Surrey, Kingston Rowing Club. They crossed the line first, perhaps just 1/3 of a length. That's the distance we measure margins by in rowing against the exhausted men from the Royal Chester Rowing Club. Henry McGarver in the stroke seat. Wasn't to be another win for the McGarver family, but Kingston Rowing Club, they had to work really hard for that victory in the Thames Challenge Cup.